All right, thanks everybody. Happy Friday. Thanks for joining us here at NJBIA today as we release our indicators of innovation. We've been working on this project for quite some time. I would say this was the project of 2018 for us, and we're very excited about the information that we are releasing today. Before I go into the details of the report, I want to do a couple of shout outs because our lead research analyst, Nicole Sandelier, who's here. I want to do a shout out to Nicole. She's worked tirelessly on the research behind this. Yes, let's give her a round of applause. As well as Mike Sanchez, who did all the graphic design on this. And of course, our communications team. Without them helping to pull this together, the report might not be where it is today. So it's so important that we recognize the people who are behind this work because, as I said, it was a tireless effort on everyone's part. So, as you know, like any organization, companies have strategic plans. And at NJBIA, our strategic plan recognizes a vision that is something that is larger than us as an organization. At NJBIA, when we get up every day and we advocate on behalf of New Jersey business, we do that with a bigger vision in mind, something that's bigger than us. And that is to see New Jersey reclaim its stature as the innovation state. To that end, we engaged in this study because we want to be part of the solution. We want to understand how do we get New Jersey back to where we were before. We got to get that mojo back here because we know we can do it. We had it. We were the leader in innovation for decades. And somehow we lost a little stride. Others followed our best practices. Others went out there and suddenly people are surpassing us. So being solution makers here at NJBIA, we take the research and now what we do is we create a baseline which will allow us to understand how we can actually start to move the levers to get New Jersey back to where we want to be, and that is the innovation state. So we do this over studying 12 indicators broken down under 3 different categories. These are what we identified as the indicators of an innovation ecosystem. And you can see the 3 categories here are capital, talent, and business. And of these 12 indicators, we studied this across 7 states. So those 7 states are New York, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Connecticut, Maryland, Massachusetts, and of course, New Jersey. And then we see how we rank relative to those 7 states on these 12 indicators. So I'm going to walk us through the 12 indicators. And then at the end, we're going to show you how we did an analysis to rate those indicators in order to give us a scale of where New Jersey compares in the region. So we start with the first, which is our first business indicator. And this indicator is capital. Now, we all know, and we hear all the time, for financial success and in financial industry, capital is king. It's all about cash flow, money moving. And venture capital is a huge part of that when it comes to the innovation sector. So what we study here is the 2017 investment in venture capital in and around the region. And we see that New Jersey comes in with $781 million invested through venture capital. That's about halfway in between our other peers within the region. But what is important is when we look even more closely between New York and New Jersey, we see that New York increased its level by over 1,000%, over 1,000%, whereas New Jersey only increased our level by 4%. That's very telling in terms of comparison. So business indicator number 2 is money from the federal government. And there's a lot of money that the federal government flows for purposes of driving innovation across the country. So the money that we looked at is funded through 11 federal agencies and comes under 2 programs, the Small Business Innovation Research and the Small Business Technology Transfer Program. These 2 programs drive federal dollars down into the states for purposes of investment. These are annual competitive programs, and all the states compete in order to receive this money. Here in our region, you can see that New Jersey received only $52 million last year of this money from the federal government. However, you can see, if you go to the other side, Massachusetts, a whopping $271 million, and in fact, that is 5 times more than New Jersey. That's a very stark difference. The next indicator under capital, we have one more slide on these 2, is this direct comparison with Massachusetts. And what's really interesting here is even though they far surpass us, you could see that actually their investment over time has gone down a bit. So even though their investment has gone down a bit, it's amazing how far ahead they still are of us. So now our next indicator is capital. Under capital is the third one, which is R&D investment. This is state money now, state money driving to investment in the state of New Jersey around innovation and the sector. And as you can see, the entire region actually, except for New York, is challenged in this area in terms of state investment. Of that $208 million of the entire region outside of New York, New Jersey's share of that is only $30.5 million, a small part of that. New York is the big winner here with 405 million, far surpassing everybody in the region, and everybody in the region collectively, New York is still far surpassing. They have really made an effort of taking their state dollars and focusing it into building their innovation ecosystem. R&D expenditures over the last 10 years. Now, we did a comparison directly to Connecticut, and you can see even Connecticut, who fares not as well as the other states in the region in many of these factors, is even surpassing us when it comes to state expenditures over the last 10 years. And you can see how New Jersey's expenditures peaked at one point in 2010, and we still have not gotten back to that level. And that level in and of itself is still low in the region. And then another indicator under capital is the National Science Foundation. This is now money going directly to higher ed institutions in the state of New Jersey for purposes of them conducting research. Here you can see that New Jersey, our slice of the pie, pales to New York, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania at $157 million. So now let's move on to talent. And you all know that NJBIA spends an awful lot of time focusing on workforce development. We believe that creating a job is only one piece of the puzzle, because if you don't have a strong pipeline to fill those jobs, you're not doing any good just creating the jobs. We always have to ensure that we're building the skill set and building the jobs in order to fill the pipeline, to fill the jobs that we create. So this is very important. According to U.S. News and World Report, Massachusetts and New York, they lead with 10 higher ed institutions that rank in the top 100. So what we have on this chart is the number of institutions that rank in the top 100 across the nation. Massachusetts and New York each have 10. New Jersey has 3. Now, what's important in Massachusetts is 7 of those 10 are located within a very close distance to Boston. And that means that Boston now has successfully created that innovation ecosystem that everyone is striving for. And the importance of clustering around an area, because now you've got all that talent, you've got the students, you've got the companies that are attracted to that, you have all of those who are looking to do research and development, vying for that area, and successfully that has now become an innovation ecosystem. In New Jersey, our 3 institutes of higher education who are in the top 100 are Stevens, Rutgers New Brunswick, and Princeton University. Now, they are geographically dispersed, if you think about that. North Jersey, Central Jersey. Some would suggest Princeton was South Jersey, but that is still Central Jersey, okay? However, we don't have that clustering like you have in Massachusetts. One thing that is boding well for us in order to deal with that is a new big data project that the EDA launched 2 years ago, which today is called Research with New Jersey. And the idea there is for us to leverage, despite where our institutes of higher education are with their research, leverage in one place through a database the ability to see all the research taking place in the state of New Jersey and how now our universities can work with each other. So I would suggest that what the state is doing is we're absolutely capitalizing on the fact that we're very small geographically, very dense, and trying to use technology in order to compete. And I think Research with New Jersey is a great opportunity for us to continue to compete in this area. And that's why I'm going to throw out a plug right now as we go into budget season. We need to ensure the funding for the continuation of Research with New Jersey going forward. The next indicator under talent is net migration of first-time college students. Now, you all hear NJBIA talk about migration all the time. We've studied this for years. We have data that we keep up every year around the patterns of trending into the state of New Jersey and trending out of the state of New Jersey. And you know, last year we released our post-secondary education report, which showed that New Jersey was the #1 out-migrator of 18 to 34-year-olds across the entire nation. The statistic we focus on today is first-time college attendees. And here you can see, no surprise, we come in #1 with the largest net migration, regionally and nationally, at a negative almost 30,000 students. And if you look at some of the other states, look at what they're bringing in terms of first-time students. Look at where Pennsylvania is with their almost 17,000 inflow of students. Our border state. It's too easy for our students to go right across to Pennsylvania to go to school. Clearly, they're doing it. The next indicator under talent is the percent of population with a graduate or professional degree. Now, if you stop and think for a moment, when you think about the innovation sector, certainly no surprise that you see a lot of talent with master's and doctorate's degrees. This is significant because of the type of work that's taking place in the innovation sector. So while we are very proud of our highly skilled workforce here in the state of New Jersey, you can see when we rank this particular indicator, we have 15.6% of our population that has a graduate or professional degree. And again, we're at the low end relative to our region. The last indicator under talent is the rate of new entrepreneurs. Here we bode very well, coming in second only behind New York. And this is an economic measure of a startup activity. So when we talk about what is an entrepreneur, this isn't about incorporation and everything. This is the ideation stage. This is when people get out there and they start. And we know we have a lot of entrepreneurial spirit here in the state of New Jersey. This is something we should celebrate. This is something we must invest in. And we know that we hear strategies around investing in entrepreneurship. And we need to do more of that so that we can keep this statistic at the high end where it is. So now we're going to move to the business factors. And this is, again, all about dollars. First, we measured patents. And the importance of measuring patents is patents takes an idea from ideation out to commercialization. And that's the key. It's one thing to have an idea. We can have all the ideas we want in the state of New Jersey, but if we can't get them to commercialize, then we're not creating new business startups, all right? So in the patents area here, we can see where New Jersey fares, and we're about in the middle of the pack. What's important to note here is that, again, Massachusetts increased almost 100% over 10 years. Over almost 100% over 10 years, where we have moved the needle a little bit, but we haven't even moved the needle enough in order to keep Pennsylvania behind us, because you can see in the last 10 years, now Pennsylvania has even surpassed us, whereas we were ahead of Pennsylvania 10 years ago. The next business indicator is the number of startups per 1,000 employer company. Now, a startup is a little bit more than that entrepreneurship. The startup, we have securing financing, we've actually set up a business model, we've initiated operations, we're out there, we're actually conducting work. And again, this is working toward commercialization, so this is a very important factor for us to understand. And you can see when it comes to startup density per 1,000 in 2017, we ranked third. Business indicator number 3 is percentage increase in total business. This is how many new businesses do we create year over year. So from 2015 to 2016, we can see that New Jersey increased a mere 0.44%, okay? Not even 1% of business increase. Now, that number reflects approximately 1,000 new companies. So we could hear a soundbite out in the news that says, this year we created 1,000 new companies, and that actually sounds really good. But look at what it means when you rank us in the region. We're lagging. We're lagging our ability to increase the growth of business here in the state of New Jersey. And then our last business indicator, and this kind of drives it all home, is the business climate. And the way we get to the business climate is we take those particular costs to business and we compare them to each other over the region and we rank them. So we compare minimum wage, top income tax rate, top corporate tax rate, the sales tax, property tax, unemployment tax, and then that gives us an overall number. And as you can see, New Jersey ranks dead last, and dead last by far. Now, what's very challenging about this slide is we were dead last before the fiscal year 2019 budget. Okay? Last year, we were already dead last. We only exacerbated this situation by increasing the CBT through the surcharge and the other tax implications that we had in the fiscal 2019 year budget. Okay? That's something we need to be mindful of as we go again into a new budget cycle. And BIA has said, and we will be staunch, and you'll hear us say it time and time again over the next 6 months, no new taxes on business this year. And frankly, we need the opposite. We need to start bringing relief. When you take this data and you marry this up to the cost of regulatory compliance in the state of New Jersey, it is only worse, unfortunately. It's very sobering. Our Business Outlook survey this past year that we just did in December, looking into 2019, our member companies told us 59% said their cost of regulatory compliance rose year over year from 17 into 18, and they anticipate it's going to continue to increase 18 into 19. So that number isn't even on this chart, and that's an additional cost to doing business. Now we take all this data and we bring it together. Because the idea of analyzing it is saying, well, what does it mean? It's great to have it. And again, it creates a baseline for us to be able to move levers to understand how are these other states, what are they doing in order to be more successful in these areas than us? So we've scored these 12 indicators equally. We did not give weights to one or the other. Every one of them was scored equally. And we are woefully behind New York and Massachusetts. And you can see New York is kicking it. It's incredible where New York is and what they've done in order to invest in innovation. Again, our border state, and it's our number 2 out-migration state, which is very important for us to keep in mind. Okay? So this is where this leaves us. The nice story here, though, again, this is a baseline for us. We've taken this information for the purpose of creating a state of the state on these indicators so that we can look at each one and say, how do we now move the levers on this? What can we do to see each one of these indicators raise and rise over time so that we can become more regionally successful? And with this baseline, we can focus on this. It can give us tremendous focus on how we can make New Jersey move more toward being the innovation state that we want. So the formula is written. It's here. We know what we need to do. Now it's incumbent upon us to execute. And I suggest to you that this is the formula. Okay? The formula is we need to fix what's structurally broken in the state of New Jersey. And you saw some of that in that last competitiveness chart. Okay? We need to address the costs of doing business in the state of New Jersey. We need to address our pension crisis. We need to address property tax. And we need to address infrastructure. The 3 key things to moving the needle, what's structurally broken in the state, moving those 3 things can be significantly helpful and are significantly important to pay attention to. We need to leverage our assets. We know we have great assets here in the state of New Jersey. We have a talented workforce. We have nationally accredited K-12 and higher ed institutions here in the state of New Jersey. And we have an excellent location. We need to leverage those assets, mine them, leverage them, and make them even more than they are, and tout them, okay? And invest in them. We disinvest in those assets. We need to invest in those assets. In doing that, we will attract top-tier talent to the state of New Jersey. As opposed to having net out-migration, we can turn that around and make this the place that people want to be. We need to build live, work, and play communities. The Audible case study that we attach in the appendix is the perfect example of this, okay? When you create a cluster like they've done up in Boston, that's a live, work, play community. You create this energy sphere where people will be driven to. We need to increase our capital venture. We saw that because at the end of the day, cash is king. And this idea of targeting industry clusters for growth, again, I'll point you to the case study. That case study is purposeful because our work with Audible and the program we did earlier this year was to show how focusing a cluster around technology in an urban center like Newark is helping Newark to grow and regain its competitiveness. And it's doing it. You go up there now, it's incredible what's going on. It's incredible the energy that's being drawn to Newark today. But it takes the work of a company like Audible to be invested on the ground, and it takes more Audibles within a region to make that happen. So that is it. And at this point, I will pause. Again, in the report that you have, that you're taking away with you today, there's 2 appendices. One is a direct comparison to Massachusetts. We did that purposely, because, as we said, this whole cluster around Boston is something very important for us to study. And we need to look at what are the best practices that Massachusetts has taken over the last 10 years to make them jump as far ahead as they have. And then the second is the Audible case study, which I encourage you to look very closely at. And I encourage our companies to take a look at and see how we all together can help more companies to be those boots on the ground that we need in order to create these innovation ecosystems.